Welcome to the Upshift podcast, where changemakers meet and commune and find out how each other is doing their part in changing the world. And today's guest is Dr. Meg Haworth. Hey, Meg, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. So excited to talk to you today.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, you have quite a bevy of things that you do and titles that you hold. So I'm going to actually let you define who you're coming to us today with and what you do.
Okay, no problem. So I'm a doctor of transpersonal psychology. So that means holistic psychology or spiritual psychotherapy. So I'm looking at the holistic connections, mental, emotional, physical, energetic, and spiritual, and how all those things are one thing really, and helping people heal through that. And what I focus on is helping adult children of narcissists. I call us ACONs because we've been conned into believing so many things that are just not true. And I help them go from wounded ACON to healed icon. And an icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. All those things get really squashed by the narcissistic parent and lead us into other narcissistic relationships as we get older in life. And so I help heal the holistic connections. And very specifically, I use a technique called whole person integration technique that gets to the emotional root cause through the energy system and into the body of the long-term abuse. And this goes for any of these abuse issues you might have been through as a child or at any point in your life, because, it can happen at any time you have a big betrayal experience, you've been through it. So basically, it's really helping them to release that negative emotional energy and core negative belief from the system. So from the mental, emotional, physical, and energetic system. And then what I get to watch, I watch people's symptoms disappear. I've watched diseases disappear. It's because you're giving the body what it needs. There's an emotional root cause that gets neglected for most of us because we don't know, this as a somatic therapist, we don't know really or understand those connections, those holistic connections. And then working with people who do, like us, can really help people heal on all levels. So on top of this, I'm also a holistic nutritional chef. So I help people with nutrition to heal the body. So I've specialized in holistic diets for specific health conditions. And I worked for 14 years as a private chef here in Los Angeles with celebrities and directors and producers and people, keeping them healthy and keeping them thin for camera. So,
Yeah, you need to move to Knoxville, Tennessee, where I am.
yeah.
I told you, audience, that she comes with a full bag of goodies. But Meg, we're a group of change makers and thought leaders, of which you are. And how did you come to this, though? Because it's always an interesting story for these change makers, pioneers, people that put their, face forward. And sometimes we get, hit back in the face with what we do. But how did you get to where you are? You weren't born this amazing. Of course, you're born amazing, but wow, you do so much. So tell us how you got to this point. And then the second part of that question is, you're very focused on this narcissistic victims. I hate to call people like that, but they are the victims of a narcissistic relationship. How did you get focused on that? So how did you get where you are? You decided to help people. And then how did you focus in on the narcissistic part of it?
Yeah, well, it's my own personal story. As a child, I went through physical, sexual, emotional, narcissistic abuse. And then I was sick a lot in my childhood. But by the time I got to my 20s, I was in and out of doctor's offices. There were times where I'd be bedridden for weeks at a time. I was on like 9 different prescription medications. And I finally just let my intuition guide me one day. Reading an article in the Washingtonian magazine from DC originally, and I could barely hold it up. I was in so much pain because I have scoliosis. My spine is curved and twisted. And so I had all this pain all the time and muscle spasms. And so anyway, I was reading this article on alternative medicine. Yay, right?
What in the world?
And I was thinking, oh, this would be so great for my ex-husband, Tom, who you knew. It'd be so great for him because he has lower back issues. And then it clicked. I'm like, you're almost in tears. and you're thinking about somebody else, you got to think about yourself. And that was the moment that I picked up the phone. And this seems like a small moment, but it was a big, big moment. And so just think about that. Just picking up the phone, making a different choice is a huge thing.
Yes.
So my friend who had been raving about her chiropractor, I called her and I said, Gail, can you give me her number? You know? And so I started going to her, and that's where everything opened up with nutrition. She introduced me to people that got me into yoga and meditation and energy work. And she had this whole healing center there. And this was in the, the mid 90s, when it was really like, we were really weirdos back then. We were way out there. And now, you're looking at billboards with people meditating on them. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
30 years later, woo. So
30 years. That's right.
Yeah. So it was my own personal story that got me into holistic medicine and going first into the food and how the body gets broken down by all of that. But then I started to get really obsessed with mind-body medicine and spirituality and metaphysics. And I was just like, I was so hooked. I was seriously obsessed. And so I started developing myself in that arena and finally found the program where I got my PhD in transpersonal psychology. So I was able to really satisfy that part of me that was always mystical, always metaphysical, and always needed guidance. So I felt like I really came into who I was meant to be on this earth. And then I've been doing that ever since. And as I mentioned, I was a chef for 14 years. And this was after I had already established a private practice. But when that crash happened in 2008, boom, everything went down. People are like, oh my gosh, therapy's a luxury. Can't do it. And so everyone's got to eat, right? And that was still going. But eventually what happened, what ended that career, as you know, is I was struck by lightning.
Yes.
Yes.
That's quite a story.
That was quite a story.
Yeah. Would you consider that your aha moment?
I considered it an initiation into what I'm doing now, because it was the thing. I was aware of this on the way to the hospital in the ambulance. I was like, oh, something big's coming. Maybe I can finally put together all of the transpersonal stuff with the nutrition stuff, which I knew was coming, but I didn't know how it was going to come. Didn't have to be so dramatic, but
One of those God moments where it's like, hello, are you listening?
Yeah, you got my attention. So everything I have done since then has been building towards this. And I got into the narcissistic abuse niche really because people kept asking me, like when the universe, the tribe is asking you for help in this arena. And then I'm like, this is really interesting. I think I made one post on social media about it because I'd been through it and I'd been really working with people for many years, but I had not been public about it. I hadn't been public about my own abuse because it's hard. It's hard to talk about your parent this way. It's hard to admit your parent is like this.
Or admit any relationship that you actually had one of those, right? You feel, I don't know, stupid. Like, how did I even do that? Not as a child.
Yeah.
But as an adult, it's even worse, right?
It is. And it's amped up even more by the programming that narcissistic parent put in you to believe that you're not good enough and that you're the problem. You're to blame for everything. And so the idea of the new age idea of you create your own reality, it's just like amped up, and it actually can help make narcissistically abused people feel worse about themselves.
I never thought of it that way, Meg, but you're right. This whole, you bring on what you think but for somebody in a narcissistic relationship, they're being told that they're creating their horrible reality or creating this person being who they are. And it's just getting supported negatively. I never realized that. That's a thought, and how do you break that? Because how do you change that? Tell us, because that decision to say, no, it's not my fault, that's a hard step. How do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And also the decision or the ability to embrace the teachings of that you do create your reality, and to feel good about that instead of feeling like, I feel even worse. You've already been seriously abused. So there are different ways to break this, and there are many different people out there practicing different ways. The specific way I use this whole person integration technique, because very much like what you do, is it gets into the emotion, how the body is holding that emotion, that negative emotional experience. Now, narcissistic abuse is a shame and guilt-driven disorder. So basically, that person with the narcissist is not going to touch their own shame. They're not going to touch their own guilt. It's the last thing in the world they're going to do. So they're projecting it on everyone around them. This is why they don't take accountability. And this is why it's everyone else's fault, because they're terrified. I mean, the inner scape, I don't even want to know what it feels like to be on the inner landscape of a narcissist, because it's ugly. And so they're projecting all that shame and guilt. But then especially if you're empathic and sensitive, and I imagine a lot of people who listen to this podcast are, you'll feel like you're sponging all of this in. And not only are you doing that, but there's your reaction to it. And your reaction to it is justified, to feel extreme anger and rage, because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
If you fight back, everything escalates and you get abused even more. And they like that, which is so sadistic. But it's part of the personality disorder. Mm-hmm. And then if you stay silent, then you feel like you're just pushing down all the anger. And this is how a lot of people get sick.
Yeah.
So helping people to release that negative emotional experience and the belief, that negative core belief. And these are deep, dark beliefs that we really lodge in there. Like, I am unlovable. No one loves me. Mm-hmm. No one's ever going to love me because I'm so unlovable. I mean, these are like, really dark beliefs that'll be lodged in our system. But when you release that energy, I think of it as freeing up space for a new program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the new program is really embracing who you really are, because you really are made of love and peace and compassion and kindness and caring. Mm-hmm. But we just get totally disconnected from that by design, by the narcissist in our lives.
So I was thinking while you were talking about, there's people out there that are successful, very successful. And yet what lurks inside of them is this belief that I'm not all that great. They call this the imposter syndrome. It's almost an overused term. But I'm just thinking about the listeners, thinking about some powerful change makers out there that may not even know that this lurks deep down. What are some clues? Can you help these people? Like, well, maybe I got this. I don't even know if I do. What are some clues?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of us become overachievers. We become perfectionists. We become so hard on ourselves that we get in our own way. And so that's one of the clues, is like, how are you talking to yourself? Are you pushing yourself so hard that you push yourself into burnout and into the hospital? I mean, that's a clue, because you're hurting yourself in a very similar way that the narcissistic parent hurt you, because they programmed you to think like that.
Yeah.
Programmed to think you can never get it right. You're never good enough. And so that drive to do, be successful. Also, part of it was the performative aspect of a narcissistic parent will only give you praise if you're doing something they approve of. Yeah. So it's conditional love. And so if you feel like you're always running into people you've got to work for their love, you shouldn't have to work for somebody's love. It's just should be inherent from their heart and yours. If you feel blocked to loving other people because of your feeling insecure, your issues with self-esteem, self-worth. I've had people come to me who, like a very successful doctor came to me to work with me. And she said, I have no identity. I don't know who I am. And she was, abused by a narcissistic mother and brother. Mm-hmm. She ended up going no contact, and going no contact is great, but that's just the beginning. because you still have to unwind all of the programming and the abuse and what it did to you and how it's showing up in your life now. And for her, just as an example, it was showing up in catastrophic thinking. Like everywhere she went, she would like think about, oh my gosh, there's going to be a huge accident, or there's going to be a, and this is something that could be something going on with you, where you're thinking catastrophically, you're always afraid or paranoid that something awful is going to happen. But that's how you were wired. You were always like that as a child, hypervigilant, wondering when is the next time they're going to say something really horrible, or give me body language that shows me I'm an awful person.
Yep. Yeah.
Because shame tells you you're a bad person.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, when they say, oh, I just feel horrible, I just feel awful, and they can't identify the feeling, that's very often shame.
Yeah.
And on the scale of consciousness, shame is the lowest in density of all the emotions.
Right. You don't like yourself at all, right?
Yeah,
Possible.
exactly. And you may think, no, I love myself. I go to the spa and I do this and I do that for me. And those are all great self-care measures, but it's not the same as taking care of your energetic, spiritual, and mental and emotional health.
So it sounds like those who live on pins and needles, and maybe they don't even know why, right?
Yeah.
If they've got catastrophic thinking, I'm just trying to think of layman's terms of walking out the door and being like uber cautious. And it also could be the people that just want to have a controlled environment. That's probably another key, right? And for me, it was failure to launch. So here I am, I'm misconfident, right? And I really believe it. And I really feel that way. And I really am most of the time. But when I discovered that deep down inside, I was not fully believing in me. And it kept me, it's like I could start anything, which is so typical Aries, I guess, but I couldn't bring it to home. I couldn't bring it home. Failure to launch. I think that's an erosive clue that I had some sort of lack of confidence inside. And, it makes me think, was there a narcissistic parent in my life? It's just for people out there, I think it's something to think about. It doesn't give you an excuse, but it makes you go, oh, well, maybe I got something to work on.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what this is really about. It's about the change we make inside that changes the outside, where your work is helping those become more, overused word, I got it, but authentic.
Yes.
But with a more authentic person, then us in the outside, get a more real and what we need. So if I were dare to say your ripple effect, and please correct me on this, but your ripple effect is if we have more confident and more real people, then it would make for a more real environment and a more comfortable existence for all. I mean, that would be, am I speaking that in your terms, or am I speaking that correctly? And how your ripple effect really goes out beyond the person you're helping?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we need more people in the world who are empathetic and kind and caring. And so many of us get so damaged that, I mean, I hear it all the time, where you're curled up in bed, you can't get out of bed, you're crying, you're a wreck, when you're not out there being successful, and you feel very, very fragile. But we need you healed, because we need that light in the world right now, especially to really, bring more empathy and kindness and caring into the world, because that's really what the world needs. That's what we all need. But if you're feeling like you've been using your empathy, your intuition for negativity, which is what we get trained to do, right? Are you using our empathy to search for, and our intuition to search for what's wrong in the room?
Ah, now that is a great clue.
It is.
So people do that. And those are the kind of the negative Nellies, the naysayers, the like you said, catastrophic thinking. Do they ever go into the positive part?
They can, if they get training. I mean, that's another thing I help train people to do, is develop their intuition with a very specific method that helps them reduce that empathy overload, where you just feel, I call it empathy gone wild, where you just feel like you're feeling all the sadness in the world, and you're feeling like for the animals and the children and and one of the things I like to say that I think helps a lot of people is that if you were hanging off of the side of a cliff, is it helpful for someone to get down on the side of the cliff and hang with you? I don't think so.
You're right, but no.
What's helpful is to, find a rope, find a way to brace yourself to help that person up. And there's going to be times where you need to help up and times where you need to be the one giving the help. But you can't be wounded. If you stay in that wounded space, it's hard for you to help other people. So of course it's helping yourself first.
Right. I was about to say airlines, right? But the mask on here first before you help someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Helping from the wound. And that's where people connect too. I mean, it's what we've been taught. If you're in that cycle in your family, then you look for somebody with a similar wound. I'm saying for intimate relationships, even friendships, I dare to say, not just,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And business relationships too.
And that's a hard one, but great you brought that up because, I've had a business relationship or, that didn't work out. And it's like, well, what's the message there? So when you're saying that, I know that people mirror things inside of you, but it's like, what part of that relationship do I need to look at in myself? Is that a question to ask?
Yeah. Well, what is it doing to you emotionally? Like, what are the emotions that are coming up for you? This is where I start with people. And then what are your thoughts about it? Like, what's the story that's happening here? And yes, what's your side of the story? Because your side is the emotional reactions. It's also maybe taking on emotions of other people. But instead of thinking of it as I attracted this person or I'm a narcissist magnet, think of it as I'm attracted to this energy and there are reasons why.
Yeah.
And for our part, those of us who are attracted to narcissistic people, one, of course, it's normal. If you were raised that way, it just feels like home, right? Home. Even though home was not safe and home was destructive, but you haven't figured out that yet. So you tend to be more of a people pleaser. You avoid confrontation. You let things slide because the narcissistic person in your life was talking you into all kinds of things that were sometimes illegal, sometimes awful and heinous, that it was okay. They sort of normalize bad behavior. That's one of the things they're really, really good at. And so you dismiss it. And you were dismissed all the time. And so this is one of the things that happens. So that those codependent behaviors where you want to take care of people and you want to do good, you might overhelp. And I'm not saying helping is bad because it's wonderful.
Yeah. But not at your detriment, right?
Yeah. There's a point at which you help so much other people that you're not, it's like what I did, in the past with that magazine. And I was just like trying to help someone else. And then I was like, wait a minute, I need to help me. So when you make yourself, and this is not easy, you make yourself the center of your life, the center of your attention for healing, everything changes. Because then you start to see everything that went on. You start to see your part in it, like the ways that you did dismiss it or ignore it, or maybe even manipulative behaviors that you might have recycled just because you learned it, and you thought that was appropriate and that was okay, and then you start going, well, you know what, that impacts, you have empathy, so you can say to yourself, that impacts that other person in a negative way, and I don't want to do that to anyone. I know how it impacted me.
Well, you'd have to have respect I always say respect starts for you first, and then you'll have respect for the people around you. And so that work you do sounds very deep and energetically draining, I imagine at times. So what do you do to maintain your own balance? I mean, for other people out there, we want to know, how do other people maintain balance?
Yeah. So I don't get drained by my clients. In fact, I leave my sessions feeling energized.
And then you're doing
Um,
your work. That's for
I'm
sure.
doing my
Your
work. I'm
love.
in my purpose, and that when you're in your purpose and you're as clean as you can be, and I'm always cleaning up. I'm not. I always say, as long as you're in a body, the fun never stops.
Yeah.
You know, there's always something else to work on, something else to work through, and there'd be times of peace and enjoyment, other times where it's hard. So it's really about learning to hone your empathy and your intuition, releasing the negative programming, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs from the past that are lodged in your system, and then embodying all those qualities that are really who you really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kindness, compassion, caring. And that's at the end of every single session when we do the technique together, they end up calling in what they want to feel. You
Yeah.
know, you've released that shame as much as you can release today. And then that's going to continue and continue healing. And then you're bringing in, intentionally, you're bringing in peace and confidence and love. And so we bring that in, and that's my prescription for them when they leave, is I want you every day when you do your meditation or even just sitting at your desk for 5 minutes, just take in 3 deep cleansing breaths and just feel your body being flooded with peace, flooded with love, flooded with confidence, whatever it was that they chose that week. And you keep reinforcing those energies. And that's really the process of embodiment, you know?
You're talking my language now, as you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you, what do you love most about what you do?
Oh my God. Watching people shift dramatically in a small amount of time. It's so satisfying. I'll be inside of myself going, yes. You know, when somebody's reporting to me, you know, it happens almost every day, especially in my Iconic Me coaching program, because it's more intensive one-on-one work. And when somebody says, you know, like, when we first started just 3 months ago, I was so angry. I was so upset. I didn't want to leave the house. I was pushing everybody away. And now it just doesn't bother me. Like it doesn't bother me that that person canceled on me at the last minute and I used to go into like a tailspin. You know, whatever it is, everybody has their different ways of reckoning with the things that happen. And so as she was able to see more and more and more about what was going on in her system and what was operating in her body and release those things from her body and replace that energy, the stronger and stronger she got, to the point where she's just like, I don't even feel it anymore. I didn't get triggered at all when that person did this thing. I'm now really like, I cognitively understand that that's their stuff, but now I really feel that's their stuff.
The boundaries that we hear about, right? And healthy ones, though, not where you block everybody out, but I call
Yeah.
it the screen door, you know, where you allow what you want in, but you keep out what you know is not healthy for you. How do you
Love
stay
that metaphor.
motivated, Meg?
Oh my gosh. You know, part of it is making sure I get plenty of good downtime,
Yeah.
and also making sure that I get fun time. I think balancing those things out. I mean, earlier in my career, all I did was work, 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 you know, like write the blog, do the thing, blah, you know. I was pushing myself because I also had that self-deprecating voice telling me I'm not good enough, you got to do better, all of that. And so I would push myself into a point where I was just like, I was sick, you know. I stopped doing that and I started just honoring, like, you know what, I need to go and have fun with my niece and, you know, and go out to dinner with a friend. And that really helps balance me, because when I come back to the work, I feel fresher and I feel more like, yay, this is so exciting. I am also in my purpose. And I know that without any question. And that's, I mean, I literally do wake up in the morning and go, yes, I get to do this podcast with Angel today. I'm so excited I get to
Oh,
talk to her. We've had thousands of conversations over the years where I'm like, I wish we could record this.
We've had some great ones. And Meg also wrote the foreword for my book, which I was very, very, very honored that you did. Brought a lot of your expertise in there. For those who haven't read my book, Issues in Your Tissues, on Amazon. Meg also has a lot of wonderful books and things that she's going to tell us about. I'm going to ask you about that. How do people find you? And is there a typical market, or just, hey, give you a call, give you a discovery call? How do people even know they need you? Because you've said some things today that are sparking like, oh, never thought of that. So they could be going, I don't know. How do we find out? How do we get in touch with you, Meg?
Yeah. So let me start with, the people that come to me tend to have done a lot of work on themselves already, but not always. And they're aware of narcissistic abuse in their history. They've awakened to it. They've maybe been to traditional psychotherapeutic counseling. They may have been in different types of workshops and retreats and energy work and all kinds of different things, but they feel like they've hit a wall. And then that they feel like they need help that will take them deep into the subconscious mind and the body. A lot of them are sick. And that's a huge part of my practice, is working with people with chronic illness, because this was a big part of my own story, and helping them to release the symptomology that is attached to the chronic illness by getting to the emotional root cause of the illness and how you're holding that in your body. So they also know that diet and nutrition are part of it. And they're just like, or maybe they don't know and they're just like, wait a minute. Oh, I need to do that too. And so I weave all of those things together to help a person heal in a holistic way. And I have so many practitioners up my sleeve. So if there's something I can't handle, then, like hormone therapy or something like that, I've got a lot of great people I can recommend and refer.
Before you go on, though, define or just give us some examples of chronic disease. Some people don't even know. So, because this is my problem, not my problem, but this is something I see too. It's like, do you know you can heal that? They don't even know. Give me some examples. Give us some examples.
Chronic illnesses, the ones I see the most too with ACONs, is irritable bowel syndrome, digestive disorders, ulcers. If you have a cabinet full of Pepto-Bismol and kaopectate and all the stuff, which is exactly what used to be, and now there's none of that in my cabinet. If you have those kinds of digestive issues and you're always trying to mask them, then that would be a good fit. So chronic illnesses also, if you have persistent migraine headaches, I've seen so often that there's an emotional root cause of migraine headaches. They were in myself too. If you have persistent symptoms, thyroid issues, autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, there's a huge, and that was one of the things I had too, fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. There is a huge connection between that and sexual abuse as a child, something I've been through and something I've helped just hundreds of people through
you can
as
heal
well.
That because they say fibromyalgia is unhealable. They say.
Yeah, they say. Yeah. I mean, I do specific things in my life to prevent flare-ups, but everyone needs to be doing that. You can't eat everything in the world because everybody has a different chemical makeup and not everything is going to be okay for your system.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just a thing that we have to learn to accept about ourselves,
That you shared with us. That's huge. Fibromyalgia, ulcer, these digestive problems that so many people have, and they just, slough it off. They think, well, everybody's got it. But you're saying, no, you can actually do something about it. And it doesn't have to be medicinally treated. Is that what you're saying? I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think that's what.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying stop going to your doctor. I don't say that. This is complementary and integrative care. I think that you should, I don't recommend that you just go off your antidepressants and go to Dr. Meg or Angel,
Yeah, wow. So, please don't.
Don't. And I'm not dissing Western medicine. It's just that their holistic medicine has shown a lot more results in healing chronic conditions. Western medicine's wonderful for urgent care.
Symptoms, right?
But suppressing a symptom is not the same thing as healing a symptom. And creating more symptoms and diseases, which is what happened with me by taking pharmaceutical drugs that are actually causing another illness, It's like, okay, let's figure out how to balance all of this here. And so that's something I can give advice on. And of course, it's up to the person whether or not they want to try something, you know?
Of course. Yeah. So you've given us a lot of quote unquote food for thought. So how do we
Yeah.
find you, Meg? How do we find
Yes,
you?
back to that question.
Yes.
So go to meghaworth.com. It's MEGHAWORTH. You're going to want to put a Y in there.
I know I do that sometimes. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
W, everybody.
HAWORTH and .com. And I have 52 ways to tell if your parent is a narcissist free checklist on there. So if you're still questioning that, because it's a waking up process. It's not something where you're just like, oh my gosh, they are. It takes, even after you think they are, you still are waking up to more and more because it's so hard to see your parent this way. Really hard. And then I also have the Adverse Childhood Experiences quiz is on there for free. 10 Steps to Overcoming the Effects of Victimization, which is an ebook. And there's also, I have so much stuff on there. There's also a free recipe book. Yeah.
Is your recipe book still on Amazon?
My cookbook, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Giving up dairy.
Mention your cookbook because I do love that cookbook.
Oh, thank you. Done with Dairy, Giving Up Gluten. 14 Days to a Delicious and Healthy You. It's 14 days, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert. And some of them are just suggestions of things you can do. I wrote it a long time ago and does need some updates.
But it was pre-Whole30. I mean,
Yes.
I think about that now. It's like, wait, Meg did this before the Whole30 craze went on. But it's a great thing to get and to try for 14 days just to see if these things are affecting you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and there were like all these classic recipes like chicken piccata and chicken marsala and, you know,
well,
like
chef, I know you don't
muffins
belch on yummy stuff, right? You just healthy and yummy. It's a great trait to have. So is there anything else? Is there something, oh, no, I want to ask you, is there something that we don't know about you? Is there something you can reveal that'd be kind of fun?
Something you don't know about me. Oh my goodness, so many things. I'm like, where do you start with that one? I mean, I told you I was struck by lightning. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a singer. I'm a choral singer.
Yeah.
I love to sing. I started singing when I was 6 years old and sang through college and did private voice lessons and sang in choirs off and on throughout my adult life. So singing is really an important part of my therapy, you know, my art.
Beautiful way of expressing yourself too. And I've heard you play and I love it. I will always remember the ketchup commercial though.
Oh my gosh, that's right. It's so funny you remember that. Peace, love, and ketchup.
Peace, love, and ketchup. She entered some sort of contest, right?
Yeah, Heinz was doing a commercial contest. And so I produced some commercials with my ex-boyfriend. And then my best friend's 3 kids were in it. 2 of her kids were in it. It was so much fun.
That's what you're going to leave us with. So what is one nugget of wisdom you can leave us with besides peace, love, and ketchup?
Yes. Because they're all related, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think something that's really important when you are looking at your own healing is to really look at your intuitive nature. Learn to, and if you need help with learning, find some intuitive development programs that can help you with it. But learn to listen to that inner voice because it will guide you towards the things that are going to be helpful for you. Open your mind and open your heart to the possibility that stepping outside of the Western medical model, stepping outside of what everyone else is telling you you should do.
Yeah.
Don't should on yourself, you know?
Yeah. Shut those shoulds off, right?
Yeah. So opening up to that is like step one. And when you do make a decision, like you make that decision, like I am going to do whatever it takes to heal this. Everything you need shows up for you. Like the books, like Issues in Your Tissues, come flying at you in a good way. The messages, the people, the practitioners, everyone that you need to help you get to the next level of your health and wellness and healing and your business or whatever it is you're working on will show up for you. We're designed this way. So You engage the intuition, make a decision, make that phone call.
Yes. I
Make the
love
phone,
that.
get the help. Get the
Yes,
help.
pick up the phone. That is actually wonderful nugget of wisdom to step out of your comfort zone, right? And make that phone call. Well, Meg, darling, thank you so much for being with us today. And I just really appreciate all the work you do. It just sounds like I always learn something new every time we talk, which I love that. I love that about you so much. So thank you so much. Y'all can reach Meg at, give us your call sign again, Dr. Meg.
Yeah. MegHaworth.com. I'm at Dr. Meg Haworth on most social media channels. And I have to mention my YouTube channel. I have almost 400 videos, on there to help you heal from narcissistic abuse and help you identify more deeply, what's been going on inside of yourself. And with my own personal perspective, it's really helpful.
So wait, what's your call sign on YouTube? How do we find
Dr. Meg Haworth, at Dr. Meg Haworth.
At Dr. Meg Haworth. Wow, that's easy.
So just
good.
Search me. Yeah,
right.
It's easy.
So I'm going to do a quick thank you for everybody. I'm your host, Angel Haworth. I'd love to get to know you better. So send me an email at angel@upshiftpodcast.com. And to book me for a speaking engagement, come on over to my website, angelhoward.co, not com, co, or dive deeper into your own journey of self-discovery and buy my book, Issues in Your Tissues, on Amazon. Thank you so much. You've really motivated me, and we loved having you on the show.
My gosh, thank you so much for having me too. I just adore you and love what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. See you down the road. Bye. Bye. Thank you, Dr. Meg, for joining us today. And to all my listeners, thank you. And I really love having you on the show. I'm your host, Angel Howard. I'd love to get to know you better. Send me an email at angel@angelhoward.co or book me for a speaking engagement. Come on over to my website, angelhoward.co, or dive deeper into your own journey of self-discovery and buy my book, Issues in Your Tissues, on Amazon. Thanks again, and see you next time.